Hello, yet again, beloved Greek students. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to parse verbs. Are you excited yet? You should be, because parsing verbs is where it's at. Now, you want to be open in your textbook if you have Ray Summers' Essentials of New Testament Greek, if you are taking this class at San Diego Christian College with me online. You want to have that open to pages 12 and 13. There are some exercises, some homework you're going to be turning in this week, and that is 3.4 on page 13, A and B. Now, A, you're going to translate some verbs it gives you. It says pronounce them, but of course you're not going to give me a recording of your pronunciation, but you are going to give me your translation written out, and then you are going to parse the verbs given, which means I have to teach you what parsing verbs means. And I gotta teach you this because you are going to be doing this all semester and hopefully for the rest of your life. I started Greek in, the fall of 2001, and since then I have been parsing verbs. You are going to spend your life parsing verbs. I hope. You don't understand how important it is now, but the more Greek you learn, the more you will understand. And so, just by way of review, some of the things we talked about in Chapter 3 are how the verb has 5 elements. So I'm going to review these briefly in the order that we're going to use parsing, and then I'm going to show you the full shebang on how to parse a verb, the method we'll be using in Professor Vic's class. Okay. So, verbs have tense, and tense has to do with past, present, and future. We talked about that. See the last video if you want detail. It has voice. That has to do with whether it is active or passive. So far, you only have active verbs. In active, the subject acts. In passive, the subject is acted upon. And we have middle voice, of course, which is something different we'll talk about when we get to that chapter. We have mood, which has to do with the relation of the verb to reality. In the case of the indicative, it is the verb is a presentation of reality from the point of view of the speaker, or from the point of view the speaker is trying to communicate. And so you are only going to have indicative verbs for quite a long time. So, of course, in tense, there is time of action and kind of action, but again, see the last video. For now, let me explain to you what we're going to do when we parse verbs. First, I'm going to have a swig of coffee. One of the things you'll realize is, unless you have some medical reason you can't drink coffee, you really should, because coffee and Greek go together really well. In my non-online classes, sometimes I will brew a pot of coffee for the Greek students. Unfortunately, this is online, but feel free to brew yourself a pot in honor of this wonderful tradition. All right, that's enough of that. So, talking about this, let me just tell you the things we're going to say in order. This is what you're going to do on your homework for the rest of the semester, the rest of the year, and to infinity and beyond. Okay. You are going to say the tense. Voice. Mood. And then you are going to say the person. And the number. You are going to give I'm going to start writing it a little bigger. This says number. And, pardon me for one moment. Shutting the door of this office. It's a holiday and there's nobody here, but somebody came in and I don't want to disturb them. The root, and then the the definition or meaning. Let me flesh this out for you, and then we will. I'm going to write it out, and then I'm going to abbreviate. You're going to abbreviate as you go, but you know, I should write it out just so you understand. So let's take a given verb. Luo. Luo is our first person singular present active indicative of luo, which means I loose or I destroy. So, if I were to write luo, now note, this right here is the stem. The lu tells me that it comes from luo. Obviously, this comes from luo, but when we're not using luo, like some of the other examples we'll give, that will be important. So that's the stem, and the o here is the ending. And all of this, besides the root and the definition we get from the stem, everything else we get from the ending. All of this information, believe it or not, is packed into this little omega. Isn't it wonderful? I think so, too. So, a little dash here, present, comma, active, comma, indicative, comma. Everything you're going to have for several weeks is going to be present active indicative. Eventually, we're going to get other verb tenses. Well, everything you're going to have on this lesson is going to be present active indicative. You are going to get some other voices. You are going to get passives and middles pretty soon, so I spoke too soon. But everything on this lesson, at least, will be present active indicative, so you know that so far. Person would be first person singular. Now, when we write the root, we're going to say of, and the fallback root is always going to be the present active indicative. We use the present active indicative to build everything on. Luo, so if it is a present active indicative, we repeat it. If this seems redundant, it is, and sometimes redundancy is very, very helpful in learning Greek. Of luo, and you can just give one definition, the base definition, and sometimes there's more than one, and you have to work through which one you think is being used in context, but you memorize a base definition, so give the base definition, which, quote mark, I loose. So, we have just parsed luo. Now, I'm going to do the same exact thing a lot shorter because I'm going to abbreviate. So once again, luo, instead of present active indicative, you may write P, comma, A, comma, I, comma, 1, comma, S, comma, but yes, my children, you have to write of luo. If you do not have all of these elements in your homework, that will not be a complete parsing, and you're going to lose points. You don't want to lose points! As William Wallace, well, not William Wallace, who would that be? Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce said that in his Greek class in Scotland. He said to his instructor, I don't want to lose points! I want to learn Greek. Okay, if you don't know your history of Robert the Bruce, it's important you learn it, and then you will realize that. Okay, so that is a complete parsing of luo. As Chuck Berry's lesser-known cousin Marvin once said, let's do another one. So we're going to, what we're going to do, remember, we're going to use different endings, and you have to remember that these endings can be put together with verb stems. So you want to pay special attention to that chart, the present active indicative. You really want to memorize that, because so many things are going to be built on this. Please, and especially in the early weeks, do not be lazy about memorizing. You've got to figure out how to memorize. If you don't know how to memorize, talk to me. We can help you learn to memorize, but you have to learn to memorize for you to be able to learn Greek. You've got to be able to memorize a couple of these things, and then later on we'll make things a lot easier, but there's just a little bit of rote work at the very beginning. One thing I want to tell you before we do another one is that some people don't know the wonders contained in their lovely textbook. And so I'm just going to share one of them with you right now, which is that in the very back of the book, page 161, there is this section called Paradigms. And if you go through the section on paradigms, you will find a lot of charts that are very helpful for what creating yourself what you might call a cheat sheet. Different verb stems, nouns, adjectives, all kinds of things that you are going to want to be learning. And so you can check that out and see what you find helpful. I would also, if I were you, I would make a notebook where you're going to make a photocopy of certain pages. I want you to memorize, but it's okay to have a cheat notebook. And the first thing you probably want to photocopy on that is the present active indicative chart on page 12, the present active indicative paradigm chart. So, that's that. Back to parsing. All right. So, here's a verb for us to use. Echousin. All right, echousin is instead of luousin we have echousin, and if you look at your present active indicative chart, look at the one on the bottom right where it says luousin. So we take away the lu and we put in ek, and that tells us everything we need to know. So watch what we're going to do. Remember, at this point, everything is present active indicative. So we are going to say P, comma, A, comma, I, comma, but it's not one S. If you look, it is on the plural side, and it is the third one down, which means it is 3P. 3P for plural. Now, you can write PL if you like. If you're lazy, write P. I can read it. I will know the difference when I'm grading your homework between that and that. But if for you it's easier, I will take PL. So, plural of. Now, check it out. We're not going to rewrite echousin. We're going to write the root form, which is, if you didn't recognize this, echo, which means I have. So echo means I have. So let me show you what you're going to do when you have to translate this down the road for your sentences. You are going to take have, and you are going to connect that with 3PL, or third person plural, and it is either going to be he has, she has, or it has. Now, Sorry if this is offensive to anybody out there, but if we don't have any context, we usually go with he. So in a translation, if you don't have any context to say what gender it would be, we would go with he. Now, if you find that horribly offensive, if you're a lady and you really want to write she has, I'm not going to grade you down on it, okay? But anyway, he has or is perfectly fine for your translation. But okay, and we'll put all of these things in a sentence later. But I just want you to understand that is what you would do. I didn't complete that. He has. Okay. So you'll go from here, all of this to here in your translation, but you're not doing translation just yet. But for the parsing root form, I have. Let's do one or two more to make sure that you are getting this. Ginoskeis. Let's do this one. So we have ginoskeis and now watch what I'm going to do. I do this in my head, of course, but I'm going to do it for you. If I have my things memorized, this happens very fast when I've been doing this for a long time. But for you, it's going to take a little longer. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go lu-o, lu-ice, lu-I, lu-amen, lu-ete, lu-usin. And then I'm going to think, okay, which one of those fits? Lu-o, lo and behold, lu-ice. Now, gnosk is my stem. So gnosk tells me what the verb comes from. Everything else is built into this. We have, because it's all you've done so far, it is P-A-I, lu-o, lu-o, 1, lu-ice, 2. So that means it is 2. And it is, if you look on the left side on your verb chart, it is singular of ginosko, which means I'm gonna write it down here because we're running out of space on the edge there because I wrote this bigger. I know. All right. Repetition is the mother of learning. It means we want to do this again and again and again to get it. So I'm going to do one more for you as we close up, and I hope that will have you pretty well set to be able to start parsing, because you are going to be needing to do this again and again and again. Again and again and again, the Old English would probably say. But it's the same idea. You get the idea. All right, let's try this one. Echousin. And all right, the amen. This is our ending. It's going to tell us a lot of the information we need, most of the things except for the root, which of course gives us the definition. So we look at this, we look at that, and we go lu-o, lu-ice, lu-I. That's 3. We got it for plural. We got to start again. Lu-amen. That means that it is going to be, well, present, of course, active, of course, indicative, of course. I'm getting ahead of myself, and sometimes that happens. But when it does, you just got to grab the reins and Okay, take everything in order. Let all things be done decently and in order. In the original context of that verse, the Apostle Paul primarily had your Greek homework in mind. Okay, no, he didn't. But, still, as you're doing Greek, be decent. You should always be decent, right? And be orderly. Okay, so we said it is one first person, but it is not singular. One PL plural of akuo. Notice this smooth breathing. That means that we don't have an H sound. We have no sound at all. Which means I hear. Remember that mnemonic device I gave you in the video on pronunciation? Little babies go, coo, coo, and you hear it. And so akuo means I hear. All right, guys, I really hope that gave you what you need to know for parsing verbs. As usual, if you have questions, at least if you are in my class, email me, text me, so that we can flush this out, because it's really, really, really important that you learn these things. If you're not in my class, you can still get in contact with me. Love to hang out, I'm sure we would be great friends. All right, that is about it, Tigers.